JeanClaude Juncker was quick to criticise fellow EU states after fallout from the row over migration quotas. Infighting within the bloc started this week after Mr Tusk unveiled his plans to relocate refugees. Speaking following the European Council summit in Brussels, Mr Juncker warned states to calm things down. He said, "Immigration, everything depends on your point of view. I would say that relocation was a success." GETTY. European Commission. JeanClaude Juncker warned EU member states to calm things down in the migration row. Do I say that of the eligible migrants, 32,000 were able to be relocated. Now Donald Tusk has said that is a small number, and to that extent it is true, but this is precisely in line with what we promised when we launched the relocation program. I don't understand how that could give rise to such emotion. I don't know why we think relocation could be a threat to civilization in Europe. We're talking about a total of 35,000 people. I think Europe and its member states are certainly strong enough to absorb 35,000 individuals, so I think we need to calm things down a bit on the point and get a little less excited. JeanClaude Juncker. So I think we need to calm things down a bit on the point and get a little less excited. The German Chancellor also said that it was not acceptable for EU members to shirk the responsibility to meet migrant quotas. She said, "We are not so in agreement as regards internal solidarity on the migration issue. In most areas, if not all areas, we show solidarity as part of the EU, but there are some areas where solidarity is not shown, and that is something I find not acceptable." The European Union has struggled to deal with the fallout following the aftermath of the 2015 migration crisis. Mr Tusk on Thursday called for unity among EU member states on how to handle the situation after infighting erupted within the bloc over his plans to relocate refugees. The President of the European Council sent a note to all the EU leaders which stated only member states are able to tackle the migration crisis effectively. The EU's role is to offer its full support in all possible ways, adding the issue of mandatory quotas has proven to be highly divisive and the approach has turned out to be ineffective. Several member states reacted angrily to Mr Tusk's suggestion that the primary responsibility for the refugees should fall on the frontline countries such as Italy, Spain and Greece. EU member states are currently divided on how to reform or replace the bloc's current Dublin regulation, where the country in which an asylum seeker arrives is responsible for them. The bloc is considering whether or not to introduce a mandatory relocation system for those granted protection. In a huge climb down after his initial comments, Mr Tusk later wrote, "The EU can only tackle illegal migration effectively with the full involvement of member states and by the coordinated use of EU and the member states' means and instruments. No member state can deal with this common challenge on its own, but decisive action by the lead member states, backed by the EU and assistance from other member states, has proven to be effective."